What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another exciting episode of Meet the. I'm your host, Troy Rawlings. And today we got a brother who's, what's ironically, he's very unsung. 30 years in the game, 30 plus years in the game, journalism, film, TV, multi-award winning, Emmy award winning, and NAACP Image award winning director, producer, writer. His writing chops. Used to get his homeboys girls back in the day.
That's true. That's real talk.
Give it up for the one and only P. Frank Williams.
I'm in the building. What's up, my boy? Troy Yizzle. What's up, man? How you doing? Happy 2021, my guy.
Happy we made it.
We made it. We here. Yeah. Donald Trump, I don't know how much longer he gonna make it though in 2021. I think there's a jail cell written with his name on it somewhere.
Man, people don't look. We usually don't date these, but if you know anything about, we're in a historic time coming out of 2020, going in 2021. I like to give people their flowers while they're alive, especially we just went through. So I got to give you props, and I met P on the most Hollywoodish time. The people who have helped influence some of the things I do, whether they know it or not. Chris Williams, who was director of How Do I Look for the Style Network. He was my first guy, my first TV development deal here with the Taboo Talk piece. I met P sitting at a bar restaurant next to each other.
Mm-hmm. That sounds like something I would be doing. That sounds about right.
And we were just talking. Like he never said what he did. He saw I was producing a music night. He actually gave me a couple pointers, I think, and came out and supported. He never said who he was, what he did. He talked a little bit. He gave me his card. But after that, we started talking. I saw what he was doing. I was like, man, I got to get you on my show. Okay. And through the forum, you're here. So
here we go. Whoa, there it is. Yes.
I jump around a little bit, but let's go all the way back in time.
Back in time.
Where are you originally from?
Well, I'm originally from Oakland, California, home of the Raiders, the A's, the Black Panthers, Revolutionary Brothers, Todd Shaw. You know what I mean? That's what we do.
Yeah. Yes. So you from Oakland, and when did you realize? Well, I've read a little bit of your bio, which had me cracking up when you talked about the cats that were writing the letters. So
okay.
When did you realize that? Was it poetry? Was it just the fact that you know how to put the words together? And when did a brother realize that, hey man, can you do something for me, P?
Well, you know what's interesting? I think that growing up in those urban environments like Oakland or Baltimore or DC or South Central in the 70s and 80s, a lot of these young guys who were in the hood, some of them weren't as good in going to school. I was like that smart ghetto kid, like around whatever craziness going on, drugs, violence, or wildlife in East Oakland, Funktown, USA is where I'm from, and Murder Doves. And so a lot of my homeboys who were selling dope or just not whatever, like girls in school, but they didn't have the capacity to write a love note or, you know what I mean? They have money, they could buy them something, but those girls really wanted whatever. And so they couldn't articulate that. And I was a kid, I had big glasses, I would write all day. And so they're like, hey, that was, I had a nickname back then. And they was like, yo, my man, why don't you write a letter for my girl? And I was like, what's her name? You know what I'm saying? Barbara, Denisha, LaQuisha. Yeah, LaQuisha, your eyes are like starry in the middle of the night. And, every time I see you, my soul just sets on fire. And they, I write it up, put their name on it, put a little sprinkle, ask them what they want. And, that was the beginning of my journalism career. I had no idea that was me starting to be a journalist, starting to tell stories, starting to interview people and figure it out. So, yes, the beginning of my whole career, I started out writing letters for D-boys and gangsters in my neighborhood in East Oakland.
You got the reputation, like, yo, talk to Pete.
Yeah. Talk to the kid with the big glasses and the afro.
When did you sprout? Because you look like an athlete. You're about 6'2", 6'3"?
I'm 6'2", 240. And so I played tight end. I played outside linebacker in high school. Baseball, I was an okay athlete, but I obviously had the brain situation work. So I'm definitely on the bigger, side of the black man scale with, sometimes in these corporate environments, the white man be like, oh, okay, what's up, big brother?
So that's what it is. Oh, this is the writer.
No, but yeah, that was the beginning of my journalism producing career in the hood, writing letters.
So you start going into meetings, start meeting people. And like you said, you're the big guy walking in. So you got into journalism. You realized you had a love for writing. You're in high school, you're doing your thing, playing sports. Was it the academics or the sports that opened the college door for you?
I think in high school, I was blessed because I wrote for the student newspaper. And I also play sports. You got those. I always say I was like, not in a bragging way, but like a Renaissance man. I love sports and outgoing, athletic, as best as I could. But always with that pen. I always had that pen. And so I always think I should have probably been a rapper because I had some real good, in high school, I wrote a sports column. And then, I was a junior statesman, the student guy. It was weird because there was a point in my life, though, where, I was homeless. I think I've mentioned, and I've talked about my story and been very clairvoyant that, it wasn't always the greatest time, but the academics and being scholarly is what kept me alive. And so even if I slept in my car for, months, almost a year, I still kept going to school. So, yes, it was the academics that helped me go to San Diego State and then to Columbia University. So, stick with them books. And I always, it's a trip because I think a lot of the young hustlers don't realize. And me and my buddy IC always talk about it's the marathon. It's the long game. And so a lot of the young guys that I saw in my urban neighborhood who were selling dope or trying to get into stuff or whatever, that's the short run. And so I always was able and fortunate to see the marathon, not sprint.
So let's talk about that a little bit. You're going to college and you find yourself in a situation where you're homeless.
Yeah, well, right before I went to college, when I was 16 years old, my mother was out, doing stuff and wasn't really there in the household. I was taking care of them, and I was out in the streets briefly, and then I was able to live with my grandmother. And so I was sleeping in my car for a while when I was in high school, and I kept going to school. And when I was about to be 18, I packed up all my clothes and put them all in the U-Haul truck, and I drove myself to San Diego State. No mom, no dad, nothing, and just was like, I got this, some scholarships and Pell Grants, what they was giving out back then. And I was like, I'm going to be on this college tip because I knew that at that particular point in Oakland, there was a lot of crazy people from the Bay Area. Felix Mitchell, Lil D, Mickey Mo. There was a lot of street stuff going on. And so I had family members who were affiliated with that. And so I knew that if I didn't get out of that, that was, sometimes in life you have those things. If you go this way, end up that way. If you go that way, something else is going to happen. And I had a spidey sense that it was best to go this way. So, yeah, man, it was blessed. I went to undergrad at San Diego State, went to Columbia Journalism School, worked at LA Times. And, I've been able to just kind of keep the journalism and writing thing for many years before I went to the Source.
So what is it about writing that feels like nothing else you can do? Because you're a man, when you're a Renaissance guy, you got many talents. But when you put that pen to paper, pencil, whatever, and you start writing, where does it take you?
Well, like I said, it goes back to that kid with the glasses who would sit in his room and read all these books. And, I think as a child, I remember watching Happy Days and Laverne and Shirley and What's Happening and the Jeffersons. And no matter what was going on outside of me or in the hallway or in my own house, that was my escape, my getaway. So learning how to tell stories about people. And, I was really shy. It's crazy that I'm so outgoing now because I was a very shy kid. And I started writing. And so I would write my little stuff. And, at some point, telling stories was always what it was about. And so I was blessed to be able to do that. And, I think I always tell my kids and people that I know, it's great that you have a gift. I had a gift to be able to write. Right. I didn't make it up. It just was, I was born with it, but I didn't just sit on it. I actually did something with it and wrote, and those poems became articles in high schools. Those articles became articles in LA Times. Those articles became Suge Knight, Biggie, Tupac, Scarface, Dr. Dre, whatever, all of that, later on.
Source. How did you get introduced to the Source?
The Source magazine. Well, I was a reporter at the LA Times. When I graduated from Columbia University, I started working at the LA Times. I got a job in this diversity program. And while I was at Columbia, one time I was in the auditorium and it happened to be the 50th issue of the Source magazine. And so at my school at Columbia in 1994, I met Dave Mays, the owner of the Source at Columbia in the auditorium. And also there was Grandmaster Flash, Africa Bambaataa, and who else is Grandmaster? And Kool Herc. I met them all one day.
Is Dave a part of the Zulu Nation? Because that's Zulu
No,
Nation.
but it just happened to be a 50th anniversary of the Source, and it had all those pioneers.
Right,
so I said,
right.
Hey, Dave Mays, what's up? I'm P. Frank. I bum rushed him. Like I didn't have my demo tape, but I was like, here's my little writing card. And so I was like, Dave, I got to get down. The Source was the Bible of the culture.
Yeah.
And I was a B-boy. I've been a B-boy since, I could put my Pumas on in my cardboard box in 81. And so, I met Dave. I was like, hey, Dave, I'm the man. Give me some love. And so they didn't have anybody on the West Coast really writing about hip hop. So at the LA Times, I started writing about hip hop, and I wrote about AMG. I'm celebrating currently my 25th anniversary in the culture. In 1995, my first article about AMG came out in the Source. So when I met Dave, probably about 9 to 10 months later, I got my first article. And then after that, I did a few and they trusted me. And then I ended up covering Eazy-E's funeral and the death of Eazy-E. So my first Source cover was about Eazy-E's death in 1995. I know that takes me back. Y'all like what? Yes, 1995.
I know. It's some people watching right now that they don't even know what the Source is. Okay. Like there's a generation that doesn't know, like, to have like
the Source was the Rolling Stone of hip hop. In the 90s and early 2000s, Rolling Stone, or the Source covered hip hop as it was growing. So as the culture, Jay-Z, Biggie, Tupac, DMX, Rough Riders, all of that exploded. Hip hop exploded as the #1 music. We were there in the same club. I always tell people, if Puff and Jay-Z is right there partying in the club, that's me and my boys over here doing whatever else, trying to cover them, trying to document the culture. The Source was the first place that the culture was unfiltered. You know what I mean? Right. It was raw. It was real.
And it didn't look like it before XXL or anything like that. It didn't look like you had Right On and these little magazines that look romper roomish. No offense to them, but right. Source came and was like you said, they were there. Yeah, they were interviewing. And if you got 5 mics in a Source, let me tell you, there were hip hop. There are people we consider hip hop legends that never got 5 mics in the Source, and they, Biggie said he wanted to get 5 mics. He got it before he passed away. Right. I think I forgot
and
what
Dr.
it was.
Dre, by the way, crazy story. You mentioned the 5 mics, the most coveted, craziest thing in at least in that time, Frank. Yeah. I just was on this thing talking about Nas, and Nas was the first artist ever on his debut album to get 5 mics.
Illmatic, yeah.
I reviewed the Chronic 2001, whatever year that's Dr. Dre came out with that, right? And so at the time, the way that we did the 5 mics, I know I would tell people people don't know this. The way that the Source did the 5 mics was we would take a copy or a CD of the album, and everybody in the whole office or the editors would listen to it, review it, write a little something, and then put how many mics they think it deserved. And so it would go all the way around, and then you would add that up, essentially. And so we went back and forth about the Chronic 2001. Ended up getting 4.5 mics. I think because I'm a West Coast cat, and I, by the way, was the first West Coast editor of the Source. I opened the West Coast office of the Source on Sunset. Is that I think some of the New York dudes was hating. They just was haters. You know what I mean? They didn't want to give the West Coast that love. You're from Baltimore, right?
I'm from Baltimore.
Y'all thought East Coast, y'all thought y'all was the bomb. And so, ironically, we didn't give Dre 5 mics. We gave him 4.5. Later on that year, we did the Source Hip Hop Music Awards. And I went to Dr. Dre's house and we taped the whole thing where I gave him a sort of a posthumous 5 mic award. And so Dre was supposed to come out that day and accept it on the Source Hip Hop Music Awards, but that became the year of the fight on stage and Snoop and Suge. And so just a little bit of hip hop history. Yes. The mics, come on, boy. Back in the day, mics.
I think that's why that little 4.5 mics might have been the spark.
Is that what you think? They was bad and you only got 4.5.
Now like, was that the reason that y'all ain't got East Coast ain't got no love for Death Row? Let it be known.
Right. Hilarious.
It's people that I know that were in. Were you there? You were there. You had to be in the audience. Were you there?
I wrote that show. Yes, I was on stage. I mean, not to be like that, but I remember being on stage at that. Is that 2001? Because I did 99, 2000, 2001, and this was the year I think we were at the Pasadena, and then the Death Row dudes came from one side, and Snoop and his people were on the other side, and they were fighting on stage, and the police were there. They started to try to mace people and Snoop, and they started fighting on stage, and then there was a fight in the audience. Anyway, wild days. But yes, The Source. When the Source movie documentary comes out, people are gonna be like, "Oh my God."
I mean, to be alive in the beginning and the starts of hip hop, if people don't even understand what that means for us and why we so serious about the culture as a whole. So you get your stamp, now coming off of Source and doing the award, were there award shows for Source? Was that your first time?
Well, what happened was I worked at the LA Times for 6 years, and throughout that time, I was freelancing for the Source. And then the Source wanted to open a West Coast office, and I opened that West Coast office as the first West Coast editor. And then I worked for a few years, and what happened was the Source Hip Hop Music Awards started again after a brief hiatus in '99. Is that right? All my Source people. And they was like, well, who's going to write it? And I was like, well, I'm already here. I'm a TV major. And boom, I ended up producing and writing the first Source 99 when we came back, and then 2000, 2001. And then that led to the Vibe Awards and the BET Awards and BET Honors. And I worked a little bit on the Grammys and many years on the NAACP Image Awards. And so, that I always say that Source time introduced me to so many people, Dr. Dre, Tupac, Biggie, whoever else, but also industry people that I work with who I'm still cool with today. So that job helped me do a lot on music shows and television later.
Now, how was the transition from writing to producing? How did that feel to you? How did you go from writing to producing? Meaning it goes from writing and seeing people.
One second. Nyla, can you close your door?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, close the door. No, please. 1 second. Thank you. Just got to stay checking on them. I think the transition from the whole thing is this, right? I think that the main thing is that if you can tell a story as a journalist, my job, whether at the Source or LA Times, whatever, is to have a beginning, middle, and end of a story. And so being able to produce, it's still about telling a story as a storyteller. People ask you, what do you do? I say I'm a storyteller. I'm a writer, a producer, but I actually just tell stories. And so I think that transition was easier because I knew how to write. If I didn't know how to write, I don't think I'm nowhere, anything that I've done has not been achieved without being knowing how to write. About that kid with the afro. I'm gonna keep going back. The kid with the afro, with the little, I had little spiral notebooks back then. And I had the old school notebooks with the black on the front with the little pages, spiraling, like a little notebook thing. And so I used to write in that.
So you go from that and you start producing. When does directing come into play? When did you get a chance to actually direct?
Because, once I started producing some of these BET shows, I ended up working at BET. And not like fully on staff, but I had a desk there and I was there for many years, and starting around 2005. And I started producing a show called American Gangster. I don't know if people know American Gangster. And, when I go out to produce a show, somebody has to direct it. Somebody has to go out and direct the talent, the camera, do all of that. So it just sort of happened by necessity. One thing I don't care what people say about BET. BET taught me so many different kind of skills because I had to do everything, And director is the same thing as that kid writing in a notebook. I'm telling what the characters are, where people need to be, giving people certain things to say or what looks great, lighting and that kind of thing. So right. It just happened. I didn't decide to. I just had to because I'm like, we don't have no money for a director, so I'm gonna do it myself. You know what I mean?
You're looking around like, who's directing this? They're like,
looks like it's me.
You said you wanted to do it.
Yeah. And here we are. Yeah. No, it's good, man. I think that, I saw where John Singleton, I interviewed John in Leimert Park one time. Rest in peace to John. His office used to be in Leimert Park. And we were talking. And the reason why Boys in the Hood happened because nobody wanted to tell that story. And he was like, I don't trust nobody else to direct this and tell this story of my life and whatever. And the studio took a risk. But you got to tell your own stories. And so for me, it's always been about that. And so directing happened because I didn't trust anybody else to tell my own vision.
So come full circle a little bit because I want to spend a little time, and you have plenty. You definitely take a chance when you get a chance. You'll see the information below on the YouTube, IG. Check out pfrankwilliams.com.
Right.
It's a massive piece. We can't cover it in 1 hour. We got to do a
but, dedication. Hard work, dedication.
You know what I'm saying? So who created Unsung? Because
Unsung
right now,
came about. It's a weird story because what happened was I think I was working on American Gangster, yeah, and then the same company that was producing American Gangster, which was by Reggie Hudlin, shout out to Nelson, those guys, and they started working with this company called A. Smith, Arthur Smith company, A. Smith, which produces now American Ninja Warrior, Titan Games, all of that. I happened to be working for that company, and Unsung, there were some executives from TV One who aren't there anymore, but they wanted to do a biography show about R&B and hip hop artists who never got their due, and ended up contracting A. Smith, Arthur Smith, shout out to my man Frankston and Mark Rowland, who were executives on Unsung, and they created the template. I think the first episode of Unsung was about the Clark sisters, if I'm not mistaken, or Donny Hathaway, one of those. And so, and by the second season, since I was already working with them, I came on. And so Unsung was created by TV One executives and then ended up being produced by A. Smith and Co.
Amazing. So you in what season? Because it's hard to track a season because it seems like Unsung has never stopped and it's just.
I think we're on season 12 now. By the way, I think is the number, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe.
And it's so much of a cultural thing now because I've talked to people. I've interviewed Will Downing. I've interviewed Crystal Waters. I've interviewed. I'm friends with Stephen Russell from Troop. I remember when his Troop Unsung came out. He's texting everybody. Did you see the Unsung? Did you see it? So at first it was like something you was like, oh man, this is hard. I watched that with my daughter, and we watch it during Thanksgiving, especially this quarantine. During the quarantine, I've probably seen every Unsung. We sit Sunday dinners. It is an impeccable show.
Thank you.
It is amazing because the only thing we had before that got close to that was seeing our artists on Soul Train or seeing our artists on award show. We never got a chance to hear.
One of the reasons why Unsung won, I don't know if you're familiar with Behind the Music. I also produced a show called VH1 Hip Hop Honors and a couple other things, but there was a vacuum for Black artists, hip hop, soul, R&B, who would never get on Behind the Music. And so there was a whole host of amazing, beautiful Black artists who wouldn't get that chance. So Unsung created a place where those artists you love, whether it be Full Force, Houdini, rest in peace to my man X, whoever else, got a chance to get their stories told. And I think that that's why it became so successful, because those artists would never get that time on a traditional VH1 or something like that.
That's one of the things that that was so impressive about and so magnetic about having Unsung, because like you said, VH1 had Behind the Music, but unless you're pop, rock, or ultra star, we're not getting the vibe off of our art. We're not learning the history. And you guys started, it's not just Behind the Music. And a lot of what Behind the Music, a lot of times they're interviewing the person and they're hitting on things, but it was nothing like Unsung. Unsung would go back and talk to everybody, even if the person is way gone and dead. And because a lot of our artists, a lot of our pioneers have died.
I think Unsung was really the first time you got to peel back the layers of the people in the music that you loved. And obviously out of that, we sprung into Unsung Hollywood, which was on for a few seasons, which was comedians, actors, movies, franchises like that. I did Flip Wilson. I'm actually, not to brag, but I'm happy. I'm celebrating 2021. Is all about celebrating. I want all them roses, flowers. Give it to me. You never know.
Sure.
I don't think Kobe got on that helicopter and thought that was the end, right? So no, I am the only person to produce an Unsung and an Unsung Hollywood. And take a guess at the only artist to have an Unsung and an Unsung Hollywood.
Probably got him behind you right now.
He ain't gonna let nobody put nothing on him without him, okay. And
Right. You can't do that.
No, I did Ice-T. Ice-T is the only person to have, because he has enough of a music career and enough of an acting career to merit enough. Maybe LL Cool J could do it.
You mentioned Ice-T earlier, and I was about to say shout out to Ice-T.
Shout out to my big bro. I was trying to find my Ice-T shirt that he signed for me. Shout out to my loved one, my big bro. I love you, my OG.
Yo,
Ice is a real player. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I'm saying?
He's a real player, real dude. and still has fun. The first time I met Ice-T was in New York. My cousin Breeze, Michelle Johnson, that works with BT and does some things. She was doing something for Khalees at the Crowbar. Khalees had an album release party, and Ice-T and the coolest person in the world. But I just saw him on The Masked. My daughter watches the show, The Masked Dancer.
Yeah, and he was on The Masked Dancer. I gotta watch that. Yo, Ice-T was on The Masked Dancer. Yo, I gotta watch that. Send me that link.
Yo, I'll send it to you. It messed me. I was watching it on Tubi.
He was dancing.
Like they were guessing who this guy was, and he takes his mask off, and everybody was like, Ice-T.
But Ice was dancing,
dude. And he was like, "Why'd you do this?" He was like, "Yo, I need something for my daughter to watch." You know what I'm saying? You know, my daughter likes the Masked Singer. I thought it would be nice for her to see me up here. And like you said, 20 years with Law and Order.
Bro. That's how, you know, I said earlier, you know, that my man Ice gave me that sprinkle, you know, my boy Ice Cube too as well. It's a marathon, not a sprint. If I could tell you anything about our whole conversation today, if you take anything from talking to me or my life or whatever it is, it's a marathon, not a sprint. Meaning most people think about the 100 yards that they got to go and they're like, I'm going to just win. And most celebrities or music stars or actors, they flash out. If you think about most people who came and gone, it's about that marathon, that 1,500 meters. You know what I mean? That big long one. And that's the endurance. And so for me to be able to still be going 25 years later is a testament to that little kid. You know what I mean? And knowing that it was a marathon.
Some of your, I would say the top one, but I'm going to say your top three. I know it's hard. Your top three unsungs.
Oh, wow. That's a really good question. Man, you trying to kill me today. You know, I produced Bone Thugs, Houdini, Big Daddy Kane, Too Short, E40, Arrested Development, Full Force, Ice-T. I could just keep going. I'm trying to think about them all. I can't even think about them all. That's a good one. Zap, featuring, you know, Zap and Roger.
I should say the one that messed you up the most, because some of these unsungs, the one that messed you up the most, you did it.
I'm gonna give you top three for different reasons, real quick. The number one song, well, let's say this. The one that I liked doing the most, that gave me the most pride, was Too Short, because obviously I'm from Oakland. I grew up in Oakland. I saw Todd on the bus in 85, 84, something like that as a kid. So to be able to come back to do The Legend of My City, and who was a friend of mine who I'd known for years, the pride in that was amazing. Second, the one that I thought, there's two that I thought that people needed to see, didn't know. The first one was Full Force. Full Force is one of the dopest groups in the history of music. Writers, producers, Britney Spears, Backstreet Boys, James Brown, UTFO. These guys are geniuses. And so nobody really knew that. And for a while, Full Force became the most highly rated unsung. And then the one after that was really high rated was Big Daddy Kane. I was a really big fan of Big Daddy Kane. And so to be able to see Kane and hang out with Kane, who was just a super dude. But my number one unsung of all time is 20-something episodes later, by the way, is my number one unsung is got to be Zap and Roger. You know, Roger Troutman, More Bounds, Computer Love, I Want to Be Your Man. The Man, California Love, was one of my favorite artists. And I'm not sure if you know, but Roger was killed by his brother, and his brother killed him. And so, and the brother killed himself. It was a very tragic, horrible situation. And so, you know, it took me a while to convince the Troutmans to even do it, because, you know, you bury your brother and your older brother, and for their mom, she buried two sons in one day. So I ended up going to Ohio, interviewing them, hanging out, and, you know, often Black people don't get therapy. And so a lot of them hadn't really dealt with the trauma of what had happened, you know, and a lot of them cried in the interview. I went back to my hotel room after some of them, and I don't mind that they dumped their pain on me. They needed to get it out. And so there was a really tough show. And when I went back to my room, I cried a few times because, you know, I couldn't imagine what they went through. And their whole life was, you know, Roger was the genius. Roger was Prince. Roger was R. Kelly. Roger is Stevie Wonder. You could put him with a piece of tape, and Roger could go in the studio and make a whole album, literally, with all the instruments and everything. And so after that show, shout out to my man Lester and Lil Larry and my boy Zap, Terry Troutman. Zap came back together. They started doing shows. That show helped put them back on the map. And so that's my top rated unsung of all time. It's not just because of what the story was, but because what it did in direct action.
I would have to say yeah, I couldn't. I put you to the test because you're the producer. There's no way I could rate which one, but the Zapp one, yeah, somebody like Roger Troutman in our life, like different decades had different things they remember from Roger, but no one would have known his genius if it wasn't for Unsung, because what he started doing and how he created the vocoder and how he created the instruments and was creating things he used. Let me tell you one. It was probably one of the most impressive to me as well, that his music was so keyed on our growing up in the 80s that we didn't even function knowing how powerful it was. And he's almost parallel to Roger Troutman on a lower level. Kashif.
Oh, Kashif. Oh, okay.
The Kashif Unsung, totally, I didn't know about BT Express. I didn't know he was on that. You know, it was pretty amazing. It's those type of things that when I looked at Unsung, and mind you, I'm going through this and I'm not piecing it all together. I'm like, I got to interview Pete Frank, and I'm not piecing it all together. I'm like, wait, Pete, you got a hand in this?
No, but I do think Kashif obviously is a genius, and obviously he's one of those people like Roger who produced and did all these other things that you don't know about, right? You know, Roger did Shirley Troutman, Shirley Murdoch, and a lot of other things. He did California Love, a lot of great things. So, man, it's good. And obviously now today, what we're talking about mainly is this Monday, January holiday, Martin Luther King holiday. We have a 2-hour unsung project called Music and the Movement. It is a 2-hour documentary talking about how Black music has always been a part of social justice. Yeah. And so, that airs Monday, and it was great to produce that. And, Ice-T's in there, Al Sharpton, Ice-T talking about Cop Killer, Al Sharpton talking about, civil rights movements. I got my man Raheem Devon in there. I got my man DJ Yella from NWA talking about F the Police. And so this is the first time that Unsung has spun off into more of a franchise, like a documentary. You know what I mean? This every time, usually it's just one artist in each episode. So this is the first time, Music in the Movement, MLK Day, Unsung, and it's talking about Black music and social justice.
And will this be on TV One or all aspects?
So Monday on TV One, yeah, Monday on TV One. This Monday, it should be really dope. I'm excited about it. This is, like I say, it was really good to. I think a lot of people don't know enough about like Curtis Mayfield and you know what I mean, Motown and Marvin Gaye and Aretha Franklin and Billie Holiday and the slave songs and so much gospel and jazz. I don't think we realize how deep our roots are. And so one of the good things about this Music in the Movement show is that it also incorporates what's happening now. Black Lives Matter, Her, DaBaby, all these people, these kids making these social justice songs are all just capitalizing and living off of, and the next generation of what, Sly and Family Stone, Chuck D, whoever it is, Ice Cube, you know what I mean? They are the new generation of that.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. It's phenomenal to be it's the best of times, the worst of times, as it would say. As a writer, the best of times, the worst of times. To be able to be in a time where the culture is moving. I heard and I know we gotta get out here because you got some production and family stuff to do. Man, but I'm gonna say this.
I told y'all I'm daddy daycare, man. Look, Corona, I need y'all to get these kids back into school, man. Whoever's in charge of this.
I don't understand. What's got going kids on? Right behind the camera.
Help me out, please.
Look, Jesse Jackson, I was at his 75th birthday event, and he said something so powerful, talking about Berry Gordy, and something when Dr. King was putting things together. I don't know if this is in the documentary or not, but I heard him when he said it out of his mouth, and I never really put it together. He said when we would take care of things for the movement, and Dr. King couldn't make payroll, he said, well, it's a brother in Detroit that owns a record label that he'll give money so you can take care of the payroll, and he goes in his Berry Gordy. And not only that, but he said, y'all have to realize that Motown was the music of the movement at that time. You can't see something about Vietnam or some hoses and not hear the pet, tap, boom, boom, tap, boom, boom, tap, boom, boom. Yes, you hear that, you gotta run, brother. We gotta tap, boom, boom. As soon as you hear the drum.
Amazing about the Music in the Movement show, one of the points that I make, this is weird to produce something, but actually be in it as well. is that one of the points that I make in the show is about Aretha Franklin. And, you know, respect. My little daughter, she's 6 years old. She loves the song. She's respect, respect. And so what I say in the piece is that that was the theme song of African-American women. You know, it was, you thought it was just respect, but it was really about the movement. It was about giving us Black people respect. And so I want to make people know that Aretha Franklin was, as you said, she gave a lot of money to Martin King, a lot of money to civil rights. She was making a lot of bank, and she was a very conscious artist. And so a lot of your great artists gave to those movements. And, you know, obviously Berry Gordy being a great one, Smokey Robinson, Harry Belafonte, all these different great guys.
Well, I'm not going to hold you too long. The most unsung producer I've ever met that happens to put a stamp on.
I had to find the shirt. You know, this is one of the OG shirts right here.
That is slick. Now I gotta find one.
And I'm gonna have to give me your information. I send you a good little care package. I got a bunch of unsung swag. I told them they should put it on the website. They could get money. You know, we gotta, 2021, you gotta hustle, TV1. I love y'all. Y'all better start selling them unsung shirts. Be like the flea market on 125th.
Said that. Y'all see me in the joint. Well, me and y'all got to talk. We all got to talk in a minute. We're gonna have a conversation.
But yeah, this Monday, only on TV1, Music in the Movement, starring a lot of really great and amazing people. And so blessed to produce it.
Thank you, brother. P. Frank Williams, thank you for taking time out with me, brother. I appreciate it. Oaktown to town.
More bounds. Hey, you can check everything. I'm at P. Frank Williams on all social sites, PFRANK Williams. You can check me, pfrankwilliams.com. You know, I'm broadcasting live from LA, New York, Atlanta, Oakland, wherever you find me.
Most def. Love you, bro. Appreciate you.
Hey, man. Stay up.
Yes,
Peace.
sir.